As I've said in the past, there's no one in society I have more personal contempt for than the media, particularly journalists. I get that there's people who are objectively probably worse on a personal level. Like there's murderers, there's rapists, there's pedophiles, there's drug dealers, there's people who commit armed robbery. Lots of horrific crimes. But generally speaking, except ironically enough when the media tries to do it, these are not the people who we hold up as being the heroes of our society. Like people will say, I want to grow up to be the guy who sells cigarettes on the corner. I want to grow up to just like go rape the women in my neighborhood. I want to grow up to touch kids. And people might say, well, Argent, there are people who say that, and well, that's because the media has held these people up as being not only sympathetic, but they're preferential. They're superior than you. And if you disagree with that, then it's because you're crazy. But I have the most personal contempt for journalists because their position grants them instant respectability. They're ultimately viewed as being more ethical, more moral, as someone who would never lie, as someone who's committed to the truth, as someone who has more knowledge and understanding than you, someone who can fact check anyone, and even if it turns out that the journalist was lying, they don't have to be held accountable because it was true in some abstract concept while high on LSD. And this is a really good example of this. And this thing is so massive and there's so much just nonsense to wade through. Let's just try to get through it. So, for those of you who don't recall, in 2016, Trump won the presidential election against Hillary Clinton. Almost immediately after he won, there was widespread calls from the liberal media, from the media in general, and in particular Hillary Clinton, that there was mass election fraud. And this is a story we've never heard before. That there was mass election fraud, that Russian hackers and Russian bots had posted on social media, they'd hacked voting machines, they'd manipulated, they just done a bunch of stuff. And the only reason Trump won the election was because of election fraud brought on by these Russian bots. And this was periodically cited in attempts to impeach him. Hillary had this big, like, 4D chess plan to get the electoral. Maybe just take a step back. She said, look, Trump won this election illegitimately. He cheated. This was a fake election. So it is the duty of the Electoral College to act on this evidence and to change their electoral votes and to give them to me so we don't allow someone who committed electoral fraud to become president. And that was the standpoint of the entirety of the liberal media back then. Obviously, that didn't happen and Trump became president, but you get the point, and you're kind of seeing where this whole discussion has led. And the media has been plugging this thing for the last, since 2016. And even after the 9/11 times 1,000 happened, and it was declared that everything Trump said, and I agree with it, because everything Trump said was a complete lie. There's never been electoral fraud in the history of America, even during the Reconstruction era, even during the pre-civil rights era where black people couldn't vote. There was no election fraud there because I abide by YouTube's terms of service. But even after they started saying that Trump was a liar and it was fake and there was no evidence for any of it, you still had lots of people who were saying that, yeah, he rigged the 2016 election. That was completely fraudulent. I don't know if anyone remembers the election Bush won. I think it was 2000. I can't remember if it's 2000 or 1998 but yeah, the 2000 election, Bush won, and there was immediate conspiracy theories that he only won because Jeb Bush ran some shenanigans that affected the electoral vote in Florida, and that's what put him over the top. And you would have people who would say that Trump completely lied, that anyone who agrees with Trump or platforms him should face criminal charges, who were also saying that the 2016 election was rigged. So you had like a scenario where YouTube and all these other platforms were introducing factually correct statements that no one can question the integrity of any U.S. election including I remember with it was Brazil, like before the Brazilian election even happened. They were, if I recall correctly, they said that there was no electoral irregularities over the course of that. So you had these policies implemented while they were still actively claiming that 2016 was fake. And this has been used to beat Trump and beat his supporters. And it's the Russian bots, and Putin's the one who put him in power. And as it turns out, to the surprise of absolutely no one, it was complete bullshit. There was no truth to any of it. It was completely made up. It was completely fabricated. A full-scale investigation of it has turned up that, yeah, it was nothing. And that CNN just, and all the media just lied about this for the last, 6 years. And, here's another thing. Is the media going to apologize? Are all the people who said that Trump was illegitimate president, who called for his impeachment, who just believed the rumors and the myths and stuff like that, are any of these people going to lose their jobs the same way that, people who supported Trump's lies, claims about a lack of ethics in video game journalism, they lost their jobs or they got ostracized? Are any of these people going to be held accountable? No, of course they are. None of these people are going to be held accountable. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is ethics in not just video game journalism, but ethics in mainstream journalism. And all these people on CNN and all these other sites who lied about Trump for the past 6 years are going to apologize, and they're going to fess up, and they're going to say, look, we have to do better. But as I believe we'll see from these two CNN articles, the day after this came out, they are already attacking Trump for using the contents of the report. So there's the report that says Trump didn't do anything, and then they're like, well, Trump's using it as a weapon. He's saying that I didn't do anything, and that's bad. So special counsel John Durham had been tasked to investigate the FBI investigation into Donald Trump, and it turned out that the FBI should never have launched an investigation into connections between Trump's campaign and Russia during the 2016 election. There was no reason to launch this. There's no evidence. The FBI used raw, unanalyzed, and uncorroborated intelligence. That sounds like it wasn't fact-checked, to launch the Crossfire Hurricane investigation to Trump and Russia, but used a different standard when weighing concerns about alleged interference regarding Hillary Clinton's campaign. Well, I mean, I think everybody's at fault here because there's no fraud in American electoral history. But the special counsel, however, did not recommend any new changes against individuals or wholesale changes about how the FBI handles politically charged investigations, to start strongly criticizing the agency's behavior. Based on the review of Crossfire Hurricane and related intelligence activities, we conclude that the Justice Department and FBI failed to uphold their important mission of strict fidelity to the law in connection with certain events and activities described in this report. The report also concludes that, at least on the part of certain personnel intimately involved in the matter, there is a predisposition to open an investigation into Trump. I mean, that seems pretty conclusive to me, saying, look, it's bullshit. There was no evidence to open this thing up. It was clearly based on political stuff. Now, here's the question. Here is the question. Will this be used as part of a fact check? So the next time somebody brings up that Trump stole the 2016 election, will CNN fact check them and point them to this report? I would not hold my breath. Okay, let's see here. The investigation was launched in 2019 by Trump's former attorney general, a probe that Trump and his right-wing allies repeatedly predicted would investigate the investigators and lead to bombshell indictments of those who scrutinized the former president. 4 years later, the investigation yielded one minor conviction, 2 losses at trial, and a probe that fell short of the lofty goals set by the former president. I mean, how did it fall short? It determined the whole thing was bullshit and politically motivated. I love CNN trying to like spin it here, like, okay, well, we lied for the past 6 years, but whatever. Let's see, FBI should not. No evidence of collusion. Let's see here. Indeed, based on the evidence gathered in multiple exhaustive and costly federal investigations. Neither. Okay, let's see here. This is really long. Okay, the director, ex-deputy director of the counterintelligence division, hated Trump. So you can go through this. Once again, this is written by CNN. So this is the. There's also the Steele dossier, which I think was like some like fake thing that came out. The media like took it a complete and total face value. So that happened. So is CNN gonna, let's see, what is the post CNN does the next day? Or no, the same day. Is this the same day? Yes, posts literally 6 hours after the previous one. Trump weaponizes FBI Russia report he demanded to keep fighting the election that never ends. Well, you're the guys who keep bringing this up every single chance you get. That Trump rigged the 2016 election. And like, once again, this is what I say about journalists. They have no, like, they have no sense of object permanency. They can't put two to two together. They're like, we said that it is metaphysically impossible for there to be electoral fraud, but we're going to keep talking about 2016. Because, I mean, keep in mind, the narrative is, and I buy into this narrative because I support the terms of service, that electoral fraud is impossible. It has never happened in American history. That is what YouTube has told me. And they will maintain that. Someone will sit there and they will write that policy. And they will write that out, and then they will immediately go and say Trump won the 2016 election through fraud. And they are either incapable of understanding how those two statements are mutually exclusive, or they're just evil and massively dishonest. Okay, let's see here. The Russians should never have been launched, arguing the investigators discounted or willfully ignored information that did not support preliminary theories that there was collusion between Trump and Russia. And he called on the justice appointment. Okay, let's see here. Neither U.S. Okay, still in a passage report that is certain to be highlighted by former GOP president for political purposes. He argued that neither U.S. law enforcement nor the intelligence community appears to have had any actual evidence of collusion. And the special counsel also criticized the FBI's use of the Steele dossier, now a largely debunked document that was used by FBI to secure surveillance warrants against the former Trump campaign advisor. I remember, like, there was this, like, one of the surreal moments was Trump said that, like, his campaign offices were bugged, and the New York Times posted an article to say he was schizophrenic, and then someone looked at it, and, like, there was an article from a week before in the same publication, it might have even been the same writer, that said that his offices were bugged. So this is just the way CNN operates. It was new, and while it's not a complete fail that some partisan commentators on the left claim, it certainly lacked any kind of blockbuster indictments. These debates aside, the polarization of American politics and everything involving Trump and the bitter aftermath of the 2016 election means that the perception of links between his team and Russia will depend for many citizens on their ideological perspective and opinion on Trump. So, like, look, guys, we feel that Trump did it. Look, there's evidence. Our fact check tells us that if you feel that Trump worked with Russia, then he worked with Russia. That is, like, I don't think I'm being, like, dishonest. Like, that's literally what it's saying. It doesn't matter that we have this investigation that proved it. Durham report's main legacy is certain to be political. It offered an immediate opening for the former and commander-in-chief who never has to worry about nuance. Trump was quick to claim vindication for his claims that a massive deep state plot was designed to thwart him from power 7 years ago, even though the report made no such firm conclusion. I mean, did Trump say that? Maybe, but like it's moving the goalposts. It's like, okay, so the report found that the FBI screwed him, that it was politically motivated, that they were deliberately trying to take him down, but it wasn't the Illuminati. Okay, guys, like, okay, the FBI is completely corrupt and it's a complete political organization, but like it's just the like it's but it's not lizard people. Let's see here. FBI under pressure again over Trump investigations. Okay, so they're saying it doesn't matter um, because it was started under the Trump administration. And I mean, like, once again, if we're going to take the perspective that any investigation cannot be legitimate because of the partisan leanings of the administration that launched it, why are we even talking about this? Then we just none of these should be even referenced. The 2016 election, when the FBI was also accused of influencing the campaign to the detriment by publicly reopening a probe into her handling of classified emails days before election. Clinton supporters will, however, consider the charges as laughable, given, okay, so the lingering and toxic overhang of the 2016 election does not end there. I mean, you are literally the guys who keep bringing it up every 5 seconds. Let's see here. We have the Stormy Daniels thing, which was complete and total bullshit. It's yeah. Well, a president to be indicted. I guess U.S. president. I guess you could argue Jefferson Davis if you go that far. It's a bit of a dud. It's yeah. So, so basically, they're just in full-on cope mode. They're just snorting the copium, and they're just saying like, "Look, guys. Okay, so we've lied to your face for the previous 6 years. We claimed that all this stuff that wasn't true was true. We presented information that we knew was fake. The FBI made this whole thing up, probably influenced the results of the election. All this other stuff happened, but it wasn't lizard people. It wasn't the Illuminati, or it might be, but there's no evidence in this that it was lizard people. So Trump takes an L on this one. Trump getting completely vindicated of like a charge that they tried to impeach him over. Yeah, it's just like I said, I hate the media. I think until you understand that all of this is motivated by a deeply personal hatred these people have for the vast majority of people who are listening to this video right now, and just for the kind of the average person in general, until you understand how much they personally hate you and think you're a throwback and you're not enlightened like them, and you, as like Obama would say, bitter clingers to guns and religion and antipathy towards people who aren't like them, or the basket of deplorables, until you figure that out, none of this is going to make sense, because none of it does make sense from a logical standpoint. There has to be a spurious variable that's guiding this from behind the scenes. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. The reason why so many people, well, there's a number of reasons why people love Trump. One of the reasons why people like Trump is he does, for whatever his flaws, Trump does not give the impression that he has open contempt for the average American. Hillary hated the average American. Obama hated the average American. Biden hates the average American. Trump is a narcissist. He's an egomaniac. He's a bad person in a lot of ways. But he genuinely does not have contempt for the average person. He goes and likes his McDonald's like a normal dude, which is what people like about him. And I think that's partially why the media hates him so much. Is because he doesn't share their contempt for the average person. That he'll do stuff like go to Ohio and hang out with the first responders and buy the McDonald's and all kinds of stuff that they would never even think of doing, because they don't view you and the vast majority of American, like actual Americans, as being human beings. They just view them as cattle, as something that needs to be destroyed and replaced, dissolve the people and elect another, as it were. So once again, guys, that is a big L for Trump. It doesn't prove anything. The people who are